Did you know there were 91,799 drug-involved overdose deaths reported in the United States in 2020, and 69% of cases occurred among males? Also, synthetic opioids other than methadone, which was primarily fentanyl, were the main driver of drug overdose deaths, with a, let me say it again after this, six-fold increase from 2015 to 2020, as reported by the NIH, which is the National Institute of Drug Abuse. What is going on, everyone? This is your daily dose of mental health with Adam, and in this video today we will be discussing different trends and statistics in regards to drug overdose rates. Primarily, we will be discussing opioids, benzos, and psychostimulants, which primarily include methamphetamine overdoses. Now, before I go any further, if you could please hit that subscribe button in that bottom right-hand corner, and hit that bell icon, like the video, and leave a comment. But I really just wanted to put this video out here to just show how astounding some of these numbers are, and how in a lot of situations the drug overdose rates are just going to continue to increase and increase. And there are some possibilities of potentially finding good ground with it too. In regards to, there's going to be some parts of this study that I'll be showing that show that there have been decreases in some drug overdose categories. Please like the video. Let's jump right on into it. All right, so the first thing I would like to point out in regards to overdose death rates is that the US government does not track death rates for every drug. However, the National Center for Health Sciences, which is known as the NCHS at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, collects information on deaths involving many of the more commonly used drugs available through 2020 at a searchable database called CDC Wonder. The NCHS also has 12-month ending provisional data available by state and drug category. So I just wanted to go ahead and clear that up. And also the CDC also provides timely data related to unintentional and undetermined intent of drug overdose deaths by participating in jurisdiction through the State Unintentional Drug Overdose Reporting System, which is known as SUDORS, SUDORS. Similar data related to non-fatal drug overdoses are reported through the CDC's Drug Overdose Surveillance and Epidemiology System, known as DOSE. So some of these facts and statistics that I'm going to be showing you, and I'm also going to be putting up little graphs as I'm discussing some of this so you can get more of a visual picture of what it looks like with these drug overdose rates, that these numbers are constantly changing. So what we have up to is from 1999 to 2020 in regards to these drug overdoses. So I'm going to occasionally be putting up a figure. So when I refer to a figure, there will be a little graph that should pop up when I start discussing these, so you can get a better visual of the specifics in regards to the different types of drug overdoses, which will be addressing things like opioid-specific drug overdoses, including fentanyl, not including fentanyl. A lot of them do not include methadone. Also, it will have to do with some of the opioid deaths in regards to non-prescription versus prescription. So let's just jump right on in. So the first figure, which you should see that should be popping up very shortly, is a figure in regards to drug-involved overdose deaths. And this is among all ages. So drug-involved overdose deaths, numbers along by ages and by gender from 1999 to 2020. And this is, once again, so let me go from here. Nearly 92,000 persons in the U.S. died from drug-involved overdoses in 2020, including illicit drugs and prescription opioids. So the figure above is a bar and line graph showing the total number of U.S. drug overdose deaths involving any illicit illicit or prescription opioid drug from 1999 to 2020. The bars are overlaid by lines showing the number of deaths by gender from 1999 to 2020. So as you can see right here, each year, I'll just tell you, from 1999 to 2020, you're going to see drug overdose death rates going up, starting at a fairly low rate of around 16,000 in 1999 to all the way up to almost 92,000 drug overdoses with opioids in 2020. That's insane. Okay, here's another one. So figure 2 that I'll be putting up right now, national drug-involved overdose deaths by specific category, and this is the number among all ages from 1999 to 2020. So overall, so for this next line graph, overall drug overdose deaths rose from 2019 to 2020 with 91,799 drug overdose deaths reported in 2020. Deaths involving synthetic opioids other than methadone, which is primarily fentanyl, is what's killing a lot of people. Fentanyl is one of probably the number one cause of overdose because of how cheap and accessible it is to people and just how easy it is to die from it. Continued to rise with 56,516 overdose deaths reported in 2020. Also, those involving psychostimulants with abuse potential, primarily methamphetamine, also continued to increase to 23,837 people. And this source is by the CDC. So once again, you should be seeing a line graph for this. And primarily, as stated, once again, if you look, fentanyl, number one cause. If you look at this line graph, it's just straight up with fentanyl being the number one cause. You also have people mixing drugs together, but also psychostimulants in this chart showing the rise from up to 23,837 deaths. So in this one, you're seeing, for example, you're going to be seeing in this synthetic opioids arise, psychostimulants are rising. You see cocaine, prescription opioids, heroin, benzos, antidepressants. And if you look at, every category is rising up from 1999 to 2020. The next one, figure 3. For the national overdose deaths involving any opioid. So number among all ages by gender from 1999 to 2020. The figure above is a bar and line graph showing the total number. So there's going to be a line graph and bar graph that'll be popping up of U.S. overdose deaths involving any opioid from 1999 to 2020. Any opioid includes prescription opioids, which is natural and semi-synthetic opioids, and methadone, heroin, and synthetic opioids other than methadone, which once again is primarily fentanyl, which is the killer. Opioid-involved overdose deaths rose from 21,000 in 2010 to over 47,000 deaths in 2017, and this is where it gets interesting, and remained steady in 2018 with 46,802 deaths. This was followed by a significant increase through 2020 to 68,630 overdose deaths. The bars are overlaid by the lines showing the number of deaths by gender from 1999 to 2020. So once again, when you're looking at this right here, this chart, you can clearly see from deaths, male or female, but with men having higher overdose death rates from 1999 to 2020, that once again, we're seeing humongous rises in deaths. And once again, I'm going to continue to repeat this. It's fentanyl, fentanyl, fentanyl. Heroin, fentanyl, they're killers. Plain and simple. They're cheap to get on the streets as well. And people right now, listen, right now, if you're considering buying something off the streets and even a benzo, then you don't know if it's a benzo. It could be laced with fentanyl. you could die. I'm just going to be very honest with you. And if you look at these trends, you can see kind of that's what's happening. Overdose deaths involving any opioid from 1999 to 2020, you're seeing a significant rise from, less than in 1999, for example, probably around 6,000, and all the way up to 2020 of 68,630 deaths. It's insane. So let's repeat real quick kind of what I'm going over. I'm going over specifics in regards to different types of overdose deaths we're seeing. So here's going to be the next figure, figure 4. National overdose deaths involving prescription opioids by other opioid involvement. Numbers, once again, are from 1999 to 2020. So the figure above is a bar and line graph showing the number of U.S. overdose deaths involving prescription opioids, including natural and semi-synthetic opioids and methadone, from 1999 to 2020. In this, drug overdose deaths involving prescription opioids rose from 3,442 in 1999 to 17,000 in 2017. Then from 2017 to 2019, the number of deaths declined to roughly around 14,000, followed again by an increase to 16,416 in 2020. So once again, if you're looking at this, fentanyl again. So just because if you're looking at this and seeing from 2017 to 2019 there was a decline, that's great to see in overdose deaths. But then you see it rise back up. So once again, this chart, this bar graph is essentially discussing, and you'll see it, national overdose deaths involving in prescription opioids. And this is the number among all ages. So the total, you have your prescription opioids in combination with synthetic opioids, other than methadone, and prescription opioids without any other opioid. This chart, yes, there were decreases, but once again, it goes back up. Next, figure 5. This, once again, and this is a very interesting one. This national overdose deaths involving heroin by other opioid involvement. And this, once again, is involving the number among all ages from 1999 to 2020. So this figure is a bar and line graph showing the total number of U.S. overdose deaths involving heroin from 1999 to 2020. This is all about heroin, this one. Drug overdose deaths involving heroin rose from 1,960, let me repeat, 1,960 in 1999 to over 15,000 in 2016. Then, since 2016, the number of deaths trended downward to roughly 13,000 reported in 2020. The bar, okay, let me be real honest on this. Just because there was a decline in this, that's great from overdoses with heroin. Tracking them can be kind of tricky, and they're not sometimes getting every death. But if you look at this isn't a bad thing. You look at it, yes, from 1999 being low to 2016, you have around over 15,000 overdose deaths. You can see in these years from when they went from 2017 to 2019 to 20, there's been a lot more awareness about heroin, and a lot more, for example, Narcan being more accessible to the public. That is one big contributor to seeing these decreases in heroin overdose deaths in particular. But in general, it's still high, and it could be higher than this. We just don't know it yet as numbers continue to come out. And I'm very interested to see what our 2021 data looks like when it drops, which I'll do a video on when it does drop. Okay, so our next figure 6, national overdose deaths involving psychostimulants, which is methamphetamine. Psychostimulants with abuse potential, including methamphetamine by opioid involvement, number among all ages, once again 1999 to 2020. So in this figure, the figure above is a bar and line graph showing the total number of U.S. overdose deaths involving psychostimulants with the abuse potential from 1999 to 2020. Drug overdose deaths rose from 547 in 1999 to over 23,000 in 2020. So, if you look at this, once again, you have psychostimulants with the mix of opioids. Look at this. once again, in 1999, you have 547, which is essentially nothing, to once again over 23,000 in 2020. So this is on the rise again. Psychostimulants in combination with synthetic opioids, once again, other than methadone, is on the rise. Once again, you got to see this. Be careful with it, because a lot of times with psychostimulants, methamphetamine, a lot of times these can be laced. It's not necessarily that, oh, they're doing meth and they're using an opioid with it. No, it could be that it's being laced with it. This is the dangers and why you see more overdoses in meth. The next one we will go ahead and go into real quick. Figure 7, I'm going to go over this one quickly. You're seeing this one has to do with, once again, overdose deaths in regards to cocaine with opioid involvement. Once again, from 1999 to 2020. So in this graph, you're going to be seeing drug overdose deaths involving cocaine rose steadily from over 5,000 in 2014 to over 19,000 in 2020. So the whole key of these ones I'm showing you, it's just because you see a stimulant, they can be laced now, or if they're used with it, you're seeing these spikes that are on the rise, you're seeing staggering numbers of people overdosing on stimulants that are being used in conjunction with or being laced with synthetic opioids. Real quick, right here, I wanted to go over this one too real quick. So this is the next figure. We're going to be talking about benzos. Benzos by opioid involvement from 1999 to 2020. The figure above is a bar inline graph showing the total number of U.S. overdose deaths, again, involving benzos from 1999 to 2020. And these drug overdose deaths involving benzos has steadily increased from over 1,000 in 1999 to over 11,000 in 2017. But then between 2017 and 2020, the deaths declined and then rose again to over 12,000. Once again, as you see, benzos by themselves, benzos are very dangerous. You can overdose, but then when you put them in a combination with opioids, you're gonna, yes, it levels out in 2018, but you're seeing the numbers go right back up to over 12,000. And once again, it all comes down to, a lot of times, people using drugs in combination or them being laced. You'll hear me say laced a lot because that's the truth. A lot of these deaths that are so unnecessary happening from people buying drugs from friends or off the streets, they pop it, they don't realize it's laced. It's cheaper when it's laced, and they're dying. Okay, and real quick, the last one I wanted to go over. The last one, figure 9. This has to do with drug overdose deaths involving antidepressants with opioid involvement. And really, the only thing I wanted to say about this was essentially so drug overdose deaths involving antidepressants has risen steadily from over 1,000, or even more precise, 1,749 in 1999 to 5,269 in 2017, and since then deaths have remained steady with 5,597 in 2020. So once again, steady increase. And it's not having any spike with opioids and antidepressants, but it's still slowly on the rise. So what's the big takeaway from this video? The takeaway is this, is that there is drug overdose on the rise. And what I mean by this in particular is, just because you're taking something, for example, and here's a big thing, you're taking a prescription of something, you run out of that opioid, and then you're like, oh crap, I need more of it, you can't get it refilled, and then you go to the street and you go buy something, and they say, hey, right here, this is oxycodone. You buy it, you look at it, you're like, it doesn't look the same. You take it, it could be laced with fentanyl and you're a goner right there. Or worse than that, you run out and you go start doing heroin, you start using meth, and then once you play this game of when you're getting into this heavy-duty drug abuse, this is when the combination of drugs comes into place, because typically if you're buying drugs off the street and they're cheaper, you're like, oh, but it's like, oh, this is a lot cheaper buying it here. There's a higher chance that it's going to be laced. Also, this would be a good point to bring up to you that if you do ever buy a pill off the streets, and I'm not endorsing this, look it up. There's Pill Wizard and everything. Look it up. If it doesn't seem right, don't use it. Do not use it. Please do not. But that was the main point of this video, was just to create more awareness in regards to some of these trends and statistics in regards to drug overdose deaths, in particular opioids, and how they are being used in conjunction with other drugs or other drug classes like benzos. You've got methamphetamine, you have your antidepressants, and how just because you think, oh, this is the only way you could overdose. No, there's a lot of ways you can overdose. In the info shows it. I'm going to post a link to this. I'll post the link down in the comments to where I got this information and where I got these graphs. Okay. Once again, thank you for watching this. Thank you. I hit 300 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to be putting out another video here in the next week. I haven't decided quite yet what it will be, but it'll be a good video. I'm really trying to take this channel to the next level. I'm learning how to edit and stuff now, but the whole point of this channel is to create awareness. We're going to be looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of mental health in regards to drug education, drug addiction, and just mental health in general, and my own road to recovery. And we're going to look at holistic routes and herbs and just everything mental health. So check out some of my other videos. Once again, leave a comment. I love you all. I love all 314 of you right now. Let's get more to subscribe and spread the word. I love you all. Leave a comment. Peace and love.